It's portal season. Who's on the way in and who's on the way out? What's up, War Report family? We are back with another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. Joining me is my good friend Kyle Rush from the barn. Is it cold in the barn this time of year?
Crap. It's getting there. It was cold this morning. That's for sure.
Oh man, listen, it is freezing here where I'm at, but we're gonna keep you warm with some good news, and then we're gonna turn the heat off with some bad news here.
Yeah.
Look, Kyle, it's portal season, and guys are making that tough decision about whether to stay where they're at or go someplace else. We've got news over the last few days. We want to recap for our listeners, and we're going to start with who's leaving. So first on the list, I want to get your thoughts on every single one of these guys. First on the list, we heard Sunday, I think it was the first announcement we got. Backup quarterback Holden Gurner has decided that he is hitting the portal. Guys, he gone. Holden, 3 years at Auburn. 3 years at Auburn, came in under Brian Harsin. And, it's been kind of an up and down for Holden. He just never really fit in with either the coach. I think he had a bad run of coaches. And not saying Hugh Freeze is a bad coach, but like he was a coach that didn't choose him. Yeah, he didn't fit with the coach that inherited him. Your thoughts on Holden Gurner and his departure from the Auburn Tigers?
So right off the bat, I admire him for sticking out and graduating. I think that he could have gone into the portal multiple times. I'm shocked he didn't go into the portal. Almost every single time the portal opened, I expected him to go in. And he never did. He just kind of hung out and did his thing, and he was there when you needed him. Didn't ever cause any issues, and graduated, and now he's going to go do his thing. And you can't really say anything bad about him. I mean, I wish him the best, and I think, hopefully he can find him a spot where he can get some good playing time or compete and play some college football. Actually get a chance to earn a spot to play.
Yeah, every 2 straight pro days, those guys picked Holden to throw to them. Yep. And he's got an NFL type arm. He's just got to get in a place, in a system that fits his talents. And so much is just beauty is in the eye of the beholder in terms of the coach and how they see your talent and how they see themselves using your talent. Look, I wish him the best. He consummate Auburn man. He's going to leave Auburn with an Auburn degree. So he's an Auburn man forever. And I know that that's something that was really important to Holden, to leave Auburn with an Auburn degree, and he's doing that. I think that's commendable. Next on the list, we reported this first, actually. Tight end Michael Riley is gone. He's hitting the portal. Michael Riley he'll have 2 years left to play. So he's got 2 years of eligibility left. He was used sparingly at times. He actually caught a couple touchdown passes as an Auburn Tiger in backup duty. I remember a 40-yarder he caught from Robbie Ashford last year. Your thoughts on Michael Riley hitting the portal?
As much as the Holden one made sense, I mean, I don't know all the personal situations. There could be some homesickness. There could be a lot going on there. But this one's kind of a head scratcher to me because I feel like you lose all of your tight ends, and he sort of is the senior in the room. And he's more than just a receiving tight end. He's more than just a blocking tight end. He kind of can do it all. I wish him well. I feel like he's another one that just sort of is a product of the systems he was in and a product of the depth chart. And I don't know. I thought he would kind of be the guy next year to lean on. So Auburn's definitely going to have to do some damage in the portal to replace that, because all you have is 2 freshmen coming in.
Yeah.
And Rico Walker, who played very, very little, if at all, this year. So, that one's kind of a head scratcher to me.
Yeah, Micah is extremely talented. He is a hell of an athlete, just a massive physical presence. And this one was not a head scratcher to me in a sense that I have a good relationship with Micah. And so understand. I'm not going to put his business out there, but I understand the conundrum that he had about whether to stay or whether to go. And this is not what Micah said, but this is how I would look at it. If you're looking at Revolvo Fairweather and you're seeing how Auburn used him, if you're not comfortable with how Auburn used him, then you're gone, right? Because that's you next year. So if you're not happy with that sort of usage, then you're asking yourself, how different is that going to be next year?
Yeah, just ask, what do you expect? Like, what are our expectations? Like for a
listen, they all have an internal expectation about how they feel they're used, and when that internal belief doesn't align with the reality or the vision of the coach, you got to go. And that's across sports. We saw that on the women's basketball side. I mean, Johnny Harris has had, players leave, Kyle, that, they see themselves being used one way. She sees their talent another way. And it's, hey, difference of opinion. We wish you well, but, you got to go. You got to go. So that's kind of the situation I think that Micah found himself in. Moving on here, the next one to leave, he made a statement on social media as well too. Cam Brown, probably the least surprising.
Yeah,
I thought Cam should have left last year, honestly, but he stuck around for another year. It was a crowded wide receiver room. It went from the room that everybody blamed for every offensive problem Auburn had last year to a room where there was not enough spots on the field to get all these talented receivers. Cam Brown, what do you say?
He made a couple of big catches this year too. He's another one that I thought stuck it out longer than he probably should have, which I commend him for. And when Auburn kept bringing in portal guys to play over him, and then these young guys that you're kind of forcing them to, not forcing, but getting them more reps early than maybe you typically would. I thought he would have left earlier, but he stuck it out. I'm curious to see where he ends up. He's got all the tools, man. It's just like, man, can you put it all together on the field? And maybe it's just finding somewhere where you can get those extra reps, because maybe that's something that he's never really been able to get here. I wish him the best. He's a specimen. I know that.
Yeah, dude.
He's got the tools.
He is an actual freak of nature. But it's not going to work out here with the highly rated recruiting class that came in at the wide receiver position and the commitments that were made to those kids. The writing was on the wall. This writing was on the wall.
Yep.
So you bring in Keandre Lambert-Smith. Obviously, commitments are being made to him. Unfortunately, he was in a situation where the only way he sees significant time is injury.
Yep.
Right. Because even if someone's not playing well, I'm not sure he's next up. They may get Perry Thompson on the field. Man, it was crowded back there. I think the dichotomy between last year and this year is so funny. Like, it was just, we don't have a receiver. Now we got every receiver that ever lived suddenly in that wide receiver room. Look, last but not least, probably the least heralded of all the departures, O-lineman E.J. Harris has decided that he is going to play elsewhere. I saw on social media fans of other schools inquiring about EJ Harris and what kind of pickup that he might be. Was it Oklahoma? I think that was looking at him, or it was.
Wow.
I think that people were asking, hey, is this a direction we should go? Look, offensive line play was up and down. Right, like good at times, right, but left something to be desired. What do you think about EJ Harris?
I don't have a ton to say about EJ, just because he didn't really get a lot of time. I will say this: DeAndre Carter is a very, very talented inside offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman from Mater Dei High School in California, who came in as a true freshman this year. That they have a lot of high hopes for, who really stood out. I think he's kind of reshaping his body. Got a little playing time against Louisiana Monroe. I think that was one of those writing on the wall type scenarios, similar to Camden Brown, that I think if all things are equal, they might go with this guy over me, just because he's one of their guys that they brought in, and they're just kind of building that way. So it makes sense. I don't know what type of player he's going to be. I mean, he's got physically, he's got the tools. And I think he's even got the size to maybe play inside and outside at maybe a smaller type school. So there'll be some places for him. I'm not really sure what that looks like, but he'll find him a spot.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think with these guys, again, we're talking about these guys. They obviously won't be the last, but as we're recording, these are the ones we know that have made plans to enter the portal. The portal opens on December the 9th. So that's when they can officially enter. As far as I know, they can withdraw their names from the portal before then, should they so choose. But what a lot of people don't know about the portal is that there's a waiting period from the time you submit your paperwork to the time your name is officially entered. So they can submit their paperwork, and then they have 48 to 72 hours to withdraw their name from the portal. Before we move on here,
I think there'd be some surprises of maybe some Auburn players that you love that their name went in the portal, that it didn't hit that 72 hours before it went public and they got saved. So
for sure. Yeah. Look, before we move on to who Auburn maybe should target in the portal, I want to thank our sponsors here for sponsoring this segment. This segment of the War Report is brought to you by our friends, Kyle, at Joy Mode. Visit tryjoymode.com and use code REPORT to get 20% off plus free shipping. Look, Auburn didn't win on Saturday in the Iron Bowl. So if you chose to drown your sadness at home with your lady, tryjoymode.com had a solution for you. I don't know about you, Charlie, but sometimes I just got to, get the pain away. And they've got a solution.
That's a good way to do it.
Imagine a supplement like your favorite greens packet that you put in 6 to 8 ounces of water 45 minutes before boom boom time, and bam, tryjoymode.com has you covered. Use code REPORT to get 20% off plus free shipping. And once you're done with all that nocturnal activity, if you're hungry, visit Los Amigos Mexican Restaurant at 1220 Fox Run Ave, Suite 200, Opelika, Alabama. God, I don't know about you, but the boom boom always makes me hungry.
I got a good one, but I'm going to keep it to myself.
Los Amigos Mexican Restaurant, great partners in the community, serving the community, law enforcement, local politicians, a great place to watch a game. Auburn basketball is on fire. They got lots of TVs in there, and most of all, great food and great service. Nothing I love more than walking into a restaurant and seeing that health service score be 100 hanging on the wall, and that's what they got over there at Los Amigos. Again, visit them at 1220 Fox Run Ave in Suite 200 in Opelika, Alabama. We appreciate them for sponsoring the segment. Let's get back to it.
When you go from Joy Mode to the cactus, if you just look at the cactus real quick, it's like a perfect little segue.
Man,
get it off my mind.
Yeah, that's pretty dirty, buddy. Look, what was dirty at times at Auburn was offense, and who leads it. Auburn's going to be in the portal for a quarterback. Before we started recording, I asked you about some guys that Auburn may potentially target, and I've seen fans making noise on social media about some of these guys. First guy we want to talk about is Liberty quarterback Kaden Salter. What do you think about this guy coming to the Plains? Is this an upgrade for Auburn at quarterback? Is he even a guaranteed starter if he decides to come here?
So Kaden Salter, I think what's funny is if he would have come last year, whenever he went into the portal, specifically to come see Auburn, he went into the portal, visited Auburn, went back home, and took himself out of the portal. If you would have got him then, I think everybody would have been extremely excited. He kind of is a do-it-all type guy. He runs that. Very familiar with the RPO system. He's a run threat. Pretty accurate as well. I think everybody would have been really excited about him. But then you go into this season, his roster was gutted, and he went from 13-1 last year to a losing record this year. And I think even towards the end of the year, maybe the last game of the season, he was benched. Everybody sort of really soured on him. But I go back to, if you really think about it, go back to Jaden Daniels, and you look at his season he had before he went to LSU, 10 interceptions to 10 touchdowns. Only 2,300 yards passing. Not saying he's the next Jaden Daniels, but I'm just saying that if you just look at a box score and you don't look at the context that surrounds it, you're going to miss out on some really good quarterbacks. And this is where I trust Will Redmond, who does this is his thing.
Yeah.
Figuring out who's the best fit. And I think that what you have to understand too is if Kaden is the guy, there is a it's kind of like Moneyball. Okay. When you're putting the whole team together, there's pieces of the puzzle that go with other pieces. So if Kaden goes, that doesn't mean that that's our top quarterback target. That means that, maybe you missed out on a couple of guys, but what pieces else does that unlock that you can pair with it? What is Will going to pair with Kaden? That's the difference in this holistic look of what the way that I feel like Will Redmond's going to work the portal, unlike we have seen in past. I mean, I guess you can kind of get a peek of how it worked in spring. I mean, look at all the guys that you brought in the spring portal.
Yeah,
damn near every one of those guys were contributors and factors too. So I'd be fine with Kaden. I think he's got the tools that can work in this offense. I think there's some higher targets on the board, but if he ends up being the guy, depending on what they pair around with him, I think he could be really dynamic in this offense.
The question that I have about Kaden Salter is if nothing else improves, if there are no other changes are made, if play calling is the same, if the staff is the same, does plugging in Kaden Salter give you a better result? Because I don't think that this staff can afford to miss at QB again. They've got to hit a home run. Is Kaden Salter that a home run? Well, I leave that to them, but certainly fans will be very interested to see if they think that he is. There's another quarterback that hit the portal here, and his name has been mentioned as Peyton Thorne 2.0. It's Miller Moss, USC quarterback. Miller Moss, last year, Miller Moss was 64% completion percentage for 2,500 yards, 18 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. What do you think about Miller Moss here, man? Is this? I don't think this is the home run Hugh Freeze needs to hit.
Let me ask you this: what does Peyton Thorne 2.0 mean? In your opinion,
yeah, I think that people are looking purely at stats and saying, okay, well, would you be happy with? Again, Peyton was 63% last year.
Yeah,
he threw for 200 more yards than he did. He threw for more touchdowns, and he threw. Let's see here. If you look at the interceptions, they threw the same amount of interceptions. It's just Peyton had 3 more touchdowns. And I would say, look, when you're looking at Miller Moss, Peyton had a substantially better passer rating than Miller Moss did. So this would actually be a little bit of a step down in some ways, maybe than what they got from Peyton last year. And remember, in that 2,700 yard total for Peyton, he sat out a whole game.
He did.
He did not play the New Mexico game and half of the Arkansas game. If he plays those games, you maybe add 4 or 5 touchdowns and
maybe close to 300 yards
and 3,000 yards passing on the season. That would have been Auburn's 3rd single season 3,000 yard passer in the whole history of the program.
Yep.
Right. So Jarrett Stidham and Stan White were the only other.
Damian Craig. Yes, it was. I don't think it was Stan White. I think it was Damian Craig. I know Damian Craig threw for 3,000 yards.
All right. I'm a
fact check me. I'm 97. He threw for 3,000 yards. I'm telling you.
But like I said, I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, hey, it's just one of those things where you got to look at that and you got to say, hey, is this the home run that Hugh Freeze needs to hit? That's the position the staff has put themselves in here in year 3. Right? When you decided to stick with Peyton Thorne, and look, I think he got blamed for way too many of Auburn's offensive problems this year. Personally, it's just me. I know he wasn't perfect, but you kind of knew who Peyton Thorne was when you decided to bring him back. There was a belief that this staff believed that if you improve the pieces around Peyton, you would just see a better Peyton. And I think you did see a better Peyton. And not just because of the pieces around him. I just think he was better. Yeah. But, man, is this the quarterback that can save you? Is Miller Moss the quarterback that can save you?
So when I hear Peyton Thorne 2.0, I think you're literally just looking at must literally just be looking at stats. Like the scenarios are different. I mean, what does his arm strength look like? What does his decision making look like? Does he run the RPO? Do they run an RPO system? How is he as far as like throwing the ball down the field? What are the pieces around him? Like I look at so many other things, and it feels like, hey, it's another 6'2", like semi-athletic white guy. Like it's, you know what I mean? It's Peyton Thorne. It's Peyton Thorne 2.0. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I think that, again, I don't know that Miller Moss is the answer. I do know that he's got a little bit of it factor. I feel like at times, the way he played against LSU and he carved LSU up was, I think he had a couple of really big drives where you saw him go down the field and take the lead. That I would just say, hey, I've maybe only seen that one time in Peyton's career. Like I wonder about the stuff between the years, the stuff that you can't put a stat on. That's the kind of things that I look at versus just the box score. So I agree with a lot of the things you said, but I think there's just some things that you maybe thought you could cure with Peyton Thorne, and the logic may have made sense. That, hey, if we correct this and we correct this, maybe it'll help Peyton with this. And I think those key things that help you get over the hump sometimes, yes, there are some aspects of coaching, right. But I just think there's some key things as well, whether it's, hey, being able to overcome adversity. What does Miller Moss look like when he's been faced with adversity? That's the kind of stuff I'm wanting to look at versus just at the end of the day, how many touchdowns do you have? How many interceptions do you have? What's your completion percentage? Yeah, all that stuff matters. And again, you got to look at Miller Moss under a microscope and see, does he have those things that can lead to better production, more consistent production. I don't know the answer. I do know that Auburn's he's going to be tied to Auburn as far as like a school of interest. So
yeah,
I don't know if he's the answer, but I definitely think he's going to be on the list. I would like a little bit more mobility personally, but we'll see.
Yep. Look, also being mentioned outside of the quarterback position is wide receiver, LSU wide receiver, CJ Daniels. CJ Daniels finished with 42 catches for 480 yards, 0 touchdowns. He averaged 11.4 yards per reception at LSU last year in the SEC. This feels like a depth piece to me. I think you've got your wide receiver room of the future, but just in case somebody gets hurt, you're going out and getting CJ Daniels. What do you think about this as a depth piece? I don't see this in the same vein as Keandre Lambert-Smith. I think you're committing to Perry if he returns. You're committing to Cam. You're committing to Malcolm Simmons. And you got to find a way to get Bryce Cain on the field as well, too.
Yeah. I think you do need help on the outside. Because if you really think about it, you just lost Camden Brown. You haven't seen anything from Caleb Burton in 2 years. Like, what happens with him? You could only return five receivers, period, from this roster. You may only return 5 guys, and then you're bringing in 3 true freshmen that maybe only really one of them is really ready to play day one when he gets here. You gotta have help in general. So, but I think CJ Daniels could actually do a little bit of both. He could just be a depth piece, and he also could pop. Because I think he had a very big year 2 years ago. He was an animal at Liberty. And then for whatever reason, LSU is sort of up and down as far as when they were productive on offense and when they weren't. So I don't know the whole story there, but I think he has the ability. He has the length. He has the size, a little bit of dog in him to be able to go be that guy. So I think he could kind of play both sides, where he could be a depth piece and he also could be a guy that could pop. He could be I don't think he's the big play ability as Keandre Lambert-Smith, but he could be your big third down guy who can make those tough catches in traffic, tough catches on the sideline, those 50-50 balls that Hugh really likes and values. I think he could be a good guy, a good weapon rotation over there, maybe with Perry or something on the outside.
I agree. Look, you got to bring in guys like this because you just never know. You never know what's going to happen. And again, 42 catches would rival what any of Auburn's top receivers have done in most seasons. So that is valuable experience, I think, to bring in. Before we get to our last segment here, I want to thank show sponsor Manscaped. Visit manscaped.com and use code REPORT to get 20% off plus free shipping. Kyle, look, before you get in all that joy mode activity,
boy, there's a theme here. There's a theme here.
Yeah, you gotta make sure you're properly taken care of down there. Join the 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with their grooming. Look, we're sophisticated men in a sophisticated world, and we don't use the same trimmer for our balls that we do our face, Kyle. Just can't do that. And Manscaped has you covered. They have the electric foil trimmer Pro. They also have the beard hedger to help keep our guys with beards clean. And then you've got the Lawnmower 5.0 product for downstairs. They don't snag. It doesn't snag on the balls, which is really important to a lot of people. I know myself included. But again, manscaped.com, use code REPORT to get 20% off plus free shipping. Look, so we talked about the guys who are leaving, that we know are leaving. We talked about some of the guys they'll be looking at coming in. Those aren't all the names, but we picked the notable ones. There is one name that's, I want to talk about when we talk about who may leave that hasn't announced. And one name continuously pops up as maybe a possibility, and that's Jeremiah Cobb. Now, he's not made any announcements. I want to be clear. He's not made any announcements, but that running back room loses Jarquez Hunter this year. And if when you and I have talked about this, you think, well, does it make sense? Again, the way they use running backs. Remember what I said about Michael Riley. You look at Rivaldo Fairweather, and if you are not happy with how he was used, right, then you may think it's time for me to go. For Jeremiah Cobb, Kyle, is he maybe looking at how Damari Alston was used last year and saying, I don't know if that's enough carries for me. I'm out. Or and then you got Alvin Henderson coming in. How is Jeremiah Cobb possibly looking at this?
There's a couple of different ways that I think he could be looking at this. Number one, I don't really like only being the kickoff guy. I want to be a feature guy, and I'm not going to be a feature guy. I'm not going to be a Jarquez if Damari's still here. I think that could be a thing that he's looking at, because Damari's good enough to get, touches in the running game. He's explosive in the running game. He's explosive in the passing game. So he's going to be a factor. I just don't want to share time. And then the two is, hey, I think there's opportunities I can go be the number one guy. I think I can go be the number one guy somewhere else at maybe like a Georgia Tech somewhere – that's lost a senior running back that I could go step in and maybe not a tip top of the conference, tip top school of a certain conference, but maybe one of those mid-tier teams in the conference. I can go be a feature guy. And he's young. So he's like, I don't have 1 year left like Damari. I can go have up to, I guess, at least 2 more years that I can go play. I can go put a lot of film on tape instead of splitting carries this year, and then I only got 1 real year to pop. I got 2 years to kind of work this thing out. I think that's if that's the case, and I hope it's not, because I think he and Damari could be a really fun 1-2 punch. I think it would make sense though if something like that were to happen, and it makes sense also while you're hearing Auburn talk about maybe be interested in maybe multiple portal running backs, because they're maybe almost expecting something like this if it were to happen. So I'm pulling for him to stay. I want him. I think he and Damari could be a 2-headed monster that would be a lot of fun to watch. And man, if you could figure out a way to work both of them in the game as sort of like a change up of pace on both sides, I think you could find something pretty special. But again, that's not really the ideal situation for a lot of kids. So I get it.
Yeah, it's these guys have tough decisions, and sometimes I think this is the part of recruiting that Auburn fans may not be used to, is when you recruit a bunch of talent, you're going to have talented attrition. guys who are super talented that say, hey, listen, it's a little bit more crowded here than I thought it was going to be. And I want to go someplace and not sit and wait until my junior or senior year to be the guy. Because you know what? You have to. Chris Todd told us this a long time ago, and he was speaking about quarterback. He said he had a conversation with former Oklahoma Heisman winner Jason White. And Jason White told him, he said, it doesn't matter if you just won the Heisman. They're always trying to bring somebody in that's better than you.
Yep.
Right. And you have to make that assumption. You cannot ever assume that you're going to be the guy. It's a bad assumption. And it doesn't matter even if you're a Heisman winner, they will replace your ass if somebody is better. So you may get first shot, but you always got to be looking over your shoulder at the bigger programs. And at the rate that Hugh Freeze is recruiting, that's the way you have to think about this thing if you're a player.
Yep.
Right. Is that I need to feel comfortable that I'm going to be the guy. And if I'm not, then maybe I have to explore some options there. Look, Kyle, I want to thank you for joining me for a wonderful conversation about the portal. Signing day is today, as this is airing. But look, man, there's a place where people can go to follow all that news, man. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated all day long on signing day and as the portal continues to pop at thebarnauburn.com. Guys, $1 will get you all the way through the portal. $1 will get you all the way through all of the drama that's going to come from who's going to leave, who could we possibly get. There's already been multiple updates. CJ Daniels, we had an update about CJ Daniels. There's an update about a possible portal running back in there, Ahmad Hardy from Louisiana Monroe. I think that's one to watch out for, kind of along the theme of what we're talking about right now. Again, a lot of action. Sign up for $1, thebarnauburn.com. And then obviously you can catch my content anywhere you get a podcast or on our YouTube channel, The Barn Auburn, as well there.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express podcast, powered by the War Report and brought to you by our friends Vintage 2298 Restaurant and Butcher Shop and Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR for a lot of great lifetime products. We'll be back at you guys. Do us a favor, though. Hit subscribe and hit that like button and drop a comment about what you think about these portal additions and the guys leaving. We want to hear from you. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow with more Auburn Express.